Hey everybody, this is Devin with our Tuesday Homeschool Mom Talk. And tonight we're talking about how do I grade my homeschoolers' work. But tonight's only going to be before high school. We'll talk about high school next week. They're a little bit different. Um, Again, that's just how it is. I do things, I don't really grade before high school, but we're going to talk about grading and really assessing where your kids are. Um, Anyway, let's see. Here's our topic for tonight. So, when you start, don't overthink it. A lot of times, all of us get very tight with grading and where our kids are and where we're progressing. So don't overthink it, especially before high school. Now we all get nervous when we start high school, but it's okay. We'll do this together. So there's so many ways you can assess your kids' learning. I don't know why that slash is there on my notes. It was supposed to be an explanation. So, first, if you're not in Alabama where I live, you need to check the laws of your state, province, or country. Look and see what is required by law. Homeschool Legal Defense is great for having a write up. It's free to get their summary. I think the most you'll have to do is give them your email address. And that's what most websites do is you have to give them your email address. That's just how the world is. But they give great basic information, and you'll know whether you have if grading is required. I know Florida requires portfolios or evaluations. Mississippi does not require, and Alabama doesn't require anything turned in. So just go by the laws of your state. Most don't really have a big grading, but some I can't speak. There's 50 something states, right? So we don't know. Just review that. Now, letter grades are based on percentages, and this is where most of us, this is what we think of grading. We think about our report cards growing up, we think about our test, we think about all the things. And transcripts for high school, those are usually based on letter grades. So we're going to go more into letter grades next week. Tonight, we're going to talk about other ways to assess how your kids are moving forward. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Next week, we'll talk about letter grades. So, anyway, so this will be the one that, it'll cause the freak out again. Don't overthink it. So here are some ways before high school to check how your kids, I'm going to put this down because that's a big one, isn't it? Checklist. You can create your own checklist based on your goals for your child. You don't have to use that. You can use your curriculum, whatever curriculum you're using. Like if you're using teaching textbooks, they're going to grade it with a percentage grade. You don't have to think about that. But if you use like the Good and Beautiful or some curriculum, a lot of curriculums before high school, they're not going to have anything to grade, and they're not going to have tests included. That's just how it is. So how would you assess whether you're moving forward? Well, if you're spending time with your kid, you're going to know if they're moving forward. If you have a checklist, you can create your own based on your goals. It can be character goals, habits, developmental milestones, scope and sequence. Most curriculums will have a scope and sequence. You can use those. It is completely fine if you don't grade. The only time you would, I mean, I don't. I usually once you're getting into the habit of homeschooling and you're with your child, you begin to know what they do know and what they don't know. The time that I would worry is when they hit high school. Now, I'm not a big teach the test person, and I'm kind of was a rule breaker when my kids were young. But when they go to college or a trade school, they're probably going to need a transcript. And at that point, you're going to need some grades. So that's just a good thing. You want to be able to have something written down. If you refer back to some of my old workshops, I have one called um, that worst case scenario, like if mom dies. I have dealt with situations where the mom has died and there was not any grading. That can be hard. So have something that shows that they have progression. Even if you give them just A's for effort, or unsatisfactory, satisfactory, have something in case for that worst case scenario. When I was young, I never graded. I never thought about that. But in the last year with COVID, I've had several locally of the families that I work with. I've had them die, and it's hard. That's hard. If you have a question, ask a question I can answer. I like questions. So you can make your own checklist. World Book Typical Course of Study has great checklists for, it's not exactly a scope of sequence, but similar. They actually took school systems and states. They took state standards across the board, and that was their they kind of mushed it together where they covered everything. And so that's a way you can use that as a checklist. You can make your own. You can use developmental milestones. Like when my kids were little and I'd take them to the pediatrician, they would have like developmental milestones. They'd give us that big old question and say, have they done this? Have they done that? Have they done this? Have they done that? So you could have that. You can type it as satisfactory, unsatisfactory. That's one way to grade before high school. You could probably use that as grading after high school, but anything works. I mean, it works. So if you have a question, we have all day. I mean, I will wait for that question. Let's see. Another way to grade is Rubik's, where it's a scoring tool that lists criteria for projects. That could be, let's say you're doing an essay and you have essay points, things that you want. You taught your child to write an essay, and you're using that, and you're just checking off. Did they do this? Do they do that? That is another way to grade, which is very similar to doing a checklist. They just had another name when I was going and doing all my research. But it describes levels of quality. It could be kind of like you take that Walmart test and it says on a scale of 1 to 10, how did they handle this? That's what they're talking about. It's called a Rubik. So you can grade that way. Now, for me, I wouldn't use. I would like the check. I like the check. I used to when my kids were little. I would grade on attitude. How attitude? Do we use, most of us use the internet or books? Is it best to use books over printed material? I have used both. It just really depends on the age of your child and what you like. I have five total. When they were little, I used books. But I mean, I started how many years ago? 18 years ago was before there was a lot of internet stuff and a lot of curriculum on the internet. Now my teens are online and my 6-year-old is not. So I use a mix. It really depends on what you like and what you want. Some kids do great online, some don't. Some I mean, there's a lot of great stuff out there. But for my younger kids before they're fluent reading, I definitely don't want them online for learning. Probably late middle school, high school is when and really this is our first year they're completely online. We have not done that in the past. I did one year they were not ready. When the year I had my baby 6 years ago, that didn't go well. They were too young. So it just really is personal preference. Yeah. It's what you like. When you narrow down curriculum, I usually say ask yourself two questions. One is, do you want online or off? And the second one is secular or faith-based. If you ask yourself those two questions, you can narrow down your search significantly because there's so much more curriculum now than when I started. When I started, there might have been maybe 10, and it was the same 10. Everybody used it. Now there's lots of curriculum. I like curriculum by homeschool authors, people who have homeschooled. When we began 18 years ago, 20 years ago, it was private school curriculum being sold to homeschoolers. So that's my preference. I like to use things by homeschoolers. I feel like they have a better grasp on being user friendly. So that's me. But curriculum's fun. You can find a lot of stuff on curriculum if you go on my YouTube channel. I'll post it below. If you, some people may find this video on the YouTube channel, but I live this into my Facebook groups. So I'll post under the Facebook group post where to find my channel. There's lots of YouTube videos on there on helping you choose curriculum and finding stuff. Okay. I'll come back to that. But anyway, so those are 2 ways to grade. Another thing people will ask a lot when they're especially young, you'll pick up a book at the Goodwill and you'll say, how do I test my child? Well, if you go through the textbooks, you'll find struggling. Yeah. And that's normal. It's normal to struggle, especially if it's new. But if you have to find a textbook at Goodwill, like you find something like I'd find something on U.S. history and want to use it with the kids, you have to go through it. You will find there are review questions, and I would use those as my test. There'd be several that I'd use. They'd have several sections. They'd have the small ones. I'd use those for like daily work, and then they'd have big review. So you can find tests anywhere you look. You just have to read the book. Okay. The way this listed lists as Facebook user, so I don't know who's talking. Don't put your name on here. It's fine for you not to. Nobody else sees it, but I will contact you and we'll work that because I can help you, but right now it's kind of hard. I'll help you out. Let's see. So grading, you can make your You can make your checklist. You can use your rubrics and use scoring. Lots of different ways to grade it. You can grade attitude. You can grade what? See, we're talking grading. Somebody get me back on track. But anyway, so those are how you grade. You got any grading questions? We can talk about that right now. And my Facebook user asking me great questions. I'm going to touch base with her personally so that we can answer her questions better. Try to stay on subject here. You know how that is. I will help, I promise, but I try to stay on topic. I mean, everybody who knows me personally knows me that I like to help. That's just my jam. But but I will touch base with you later, and so just be looking in your messages. Well, anytime y'all want help, all you have to do is PM me. I like to help. Really, I've homeschooled 18 years and I love it. Loved every minute of it with my big kids. And I'm just happy that I call her my happy surprise. She's 6 and I'm very happy I get to homeschool her too. So she's lots of fun. So any more grading questions? Anybody got anything before I close out? Next week, we're going to talk about actual letter grades. That can go from any grade, but it's mainly for high school when we start really needing that and wanting that with transcripts. They're important. But what I think I'm going to do, if y'all hang around, my people watching, I'll close this one out and come back on and I'll answer all the questions, any questions, since y'all have them. If y'all just hold tight for just a few seconds. Yeah. Anyway, if you're catching this on the YouTube channel, take time to like and subscribe, comment, let me know what you need. I'm always up for talking homeschool stuff. We'll see you later. Bye.